Hello, good afternoon. We are Team 2 and we will be presenting our evidence on the contradictions of dual heritage national when dialogue stops. My name is Maximiliano González Torre and I will be representing the United Nations.
My name is Isaac Diaz, and I'm going to represent the government.
My name is Scarlett Montoya, and I'm representing the UNESCO.
My name is Alex Miles, and I'll be representing the EZLN group.
My name is Paulina Rodríguez Gallardo, and I will be representing the EZLN.
My name is Alberto Alvarez, and I'm representing the government as well.
Well, in today's discussions, we will be carrying out an intercultural dialogue around the following question: how should a modern state be configured in order to ensure the integration of cultural diversity, creation of real climate, and equality and equity? For instance, we will start by discussing some factors or circumstances that may happen when the dialogue between indigenous communities and the government stops. For this, we can start by saying that there will be a lack of access for the indigenous people to services and education, as the government will start to marginalize the community. After this, there will normally be a denial by the government or a violation for the human rights of the community, which will create public discontent. And this will lead to an armed conflict between both parties, which can be really critical for a country.
Okay, but how would this be relevant for Mexico? This country is home to 68 indigenous peoples, each speaking their own native language, and together accounting nearly 364 variants. So that means that approximately 15.1% of the total Mexican population belongs to one indigenous community. So, yet the country's indigenous population are still facing a number of challenges, such as the conflict we are interested in today, the Zapatista National Liberation Army, and the Mexican government discussion progress for the recognition of indigenous peoples' movement against discrimination and marginalization that they have been suffering.
Well, as part of the group, we wanted to retell how our relationship with the government has been and how our history, basically. We came out in public in 1994 because the Mexican government was going to sign the NAFTA papers, and well, we were demanding the claim of ownership over the lands taken from our wealth and the participation of all ethnic groups in both the organization of the state and the country. We started as a military group because we didn't find another way to make ourselves be heard. After that we established with the government the San Andres agreements, in which we agreed on the indigenous law and culture, in which the state undertook to recognize indigenous peoples constitutionally and to enjoy our autonomy. Nevertheless, these accords were never met. And then in 2001, we did the Marcha del Color de la Tierra, which was a movement for 37 days. We marched across different states. It was the first time us and this Comandante Marcos left our area, and well, we ended this rally in the Congress, in the Third National Indigenous Congress, and that was our last attempt to try to make a more peaceful reunion with the government in order to establish a form of constitutional agreement to ensure our rights and sovereignties. But as a response to as a response to this, all the political parties all of the political parties approved a constitutional reform that ignored the San Andres Accords. So we just couldn't really accomplish anything with this. And after this, we just developed our autonomous communities, and we've been living there ever since. We are willing to listen what this meeting is gonna be about. Nevertheless, it was important to us to remember our position and that our treaties have not been recognized before.
Well, as government, we know that the previous authorities have not given the importance that should be given to the issue of dialogue between indigenous communities, and we have implemented the project welfare programs, which include different areas and sectors of the population in vulnerable situations. Indigenous people are a very important population for the country, which is why the National Program for Indigenous People 2018-2024 has been created. On this program, it is stipulated all the rights that have not previously been fulfilled for this population. And a primary focus for this sector is education. As an example, in Nayarit, it has been actually the project for a campus of Benito Juarez University that is specialized in forest care to provide education to the young people of the communities.
So, as part of an international organization such as UNESCO, we are having in mind that in order to solve this kind of conflicts, there are different dimensions in which we are currently working with other nations and other types of current conflicts. For example, one of our major focuses have been in education, in which we encourage quality teaching and learning that respects diversity, promotes peace, intercultural understanding, and also citizenship to enable both indigenous and non-indigenous communities to live together without prejudice, discrimination, neither violence. So in this aspect, we focus on have an inclusive approach to enable these indigenous communities to share their knowledge and as a consequence enrich the education systems in every society. In culture, we also have normative instruments which wants to promote cultural diversity, not only in the respect of human rights and the participation of the citizens, but also with the customary practices governing access to the culture and benefit sharing. And last but not least, we also have a strong focus on communications and information, since we want to maintain, develop, and also participate in the creation of inclusive knowledge societies. So in this instance, we want to support the development of knowledge societies, which are diverse, inclusive, open, and participatory for all, especially for these indigenous communities, which are constantly facing different challenges in terms of communication and having information in their mother language.
As it is well known, the United Nations, are an organization with the aim of maintaining peace internationally and protecting human rights for all individuals. We seek equity, respect, and diversity around the world, and during discussions like this one, in order to protect indigenous people and their communities. Since September 2007, we adopted and approved the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. This after a General Assembly, which had a large number of votes in favor from different countries. In this declaration, we try to look out for the right of self-determination, autonomy, and self-government of indigenous people, as well as to protect their rights to maintain political, legal, and economical culture, as well as their social institutions, which is very important for them as this will help them get known by the government.
As we said before, we have been fighting for this for years. Our demands since the beginning have been clear: work, land, shelter, food, health, education, independence, freedom, democracy, justice, and peace. All of them were printed in the Declaración de la Selva Lacandona. Despite the fact that the government has tried on several occasions to cover these needs, we consider that they have not been sufficient or truly impressive as we expect. We recognize that our main source of this has been mostly the armed uprising, and although it might not be seen as the most appropriate, it was what we consider necessary. This conflict has led to the death of numerous people. It is time to stop and analyze if this should continue to be the case. We will not stop fighting for our interests, but we are open to dialogue to achieve a mutual agreement where both parties benefit only if the government promise and compromise to actually follow up with the agreed on.
Thank you. We also, as a government, our goal is to ensure the safety on all of our citizens in this country. We understand the conformity from your people, that because of the lack of attention and the lack of security and the lack of the demands that the lack of the attention that you got, that they gave to you by in the past governments. So with how Isaac said, with the Programa Nacional de los Pueblos Indígenas in this new agenda, we will promote and keep track of the continuous dialogue between both parties, us and the EZLN and your group, to take place to prevent these issues that happen, that do not happen again, and that the armed uprisings don't happen another time, so we can ensure the safety of all our citizens.
There will be no need of an uprising if we have our needs met and we feel that we will be part of the construction of the state while keeping our sovereignty in our communities.
Okay, so probably part of this agreement that could be settled in both parts, it will be something related to creating mechanisms which effectively have a common and a continuous communications with both the EZLN and also the government, not only to continue having treaties that also benefit both parts and that will benefit the safety of all citizens, especially with these indigenous communities, but also to continually having this acknowledge of which necessities, which needs, and which parts must be worked in every single dimension, related not only to land, but also to economic, education, culture, and other dimensions. So probably one of the solutions will be to have the help for a specific international organization, which must not be oppressing for an agreement, but only guiding and making sure that this whole process is making a benefit for both parts.
Perfect. I think that solution is the one that can benefit both parties and will have a great impact in the future. So I think that this dialogue that we had between the international organizations and the EZLN and the government was a great dialogue.
We find these terms agreeable. We would like to ensure that the UNESCO or the organization that follows this case really follows through to it and make sure that the government is doing what they said they will be doing. With that, we are on board.
Okay, so with that, we can conclude that both parties have come to this agreement. And also, just to have a conclusion, we will really like to add that in terms of the first question that we have been basing, how should a modern state be configured in order to ensure the integration of cultural diversity and the creation of a real climate of equality and equity? We can finish that our agreement just states that this configuration must be based on the continuous, let's say, not only development, but also monitoring of the benefits that we are assuring in every single dimension, not only creating agreements, trades, or laws, but also to monitor that they are given real benefits to both parties. So I think this will be everything for this discussion. We would really like to thank you all for giving this huge active participation.